Shocked how easy Alex Pereira was able to beat Magomed Ankalaev in the rematch. It's honestly unbelievable. It's absolutely incredible. I feel like this is an amazing outcome for the UFC and for UFC fans in general. Like, I like Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, I think he's a good fighter. But let's be honest. Like, Alex Pereira is just the more exciting fighter. There's more interesting matchups. There's more possibilities of super fights, which we're gonna get into in this video. And I'm honestly shocked. Like, honestly, it was a great card. Great main card. It was a little bit weird because it was my birthday, so we had people over, and you're talking to people, so you're not really like watching the fights that closely. So I kind of had to go back and rewatch some of the fights, especially that Marab Corey fight, to really like have a good analysis when it comes to that fight. But overall, the main card was absolutely amazing. I mean, it delivered. I mean, we all knew Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree was going to be an absolute war. We knew that was going to be a crazy fight. I knew that was kind of a 50-50 fight. And then Marab versus Corey kind of went how we expected. And honestly, the main takeaway is Alex Pereira defeating Magomed Ankalaev. So let's get into it, man. I think going into this fight, it was an interesting fight week. It was an interesting build up, just because I feel like in unanimously most of the MMA community, we were kind of in agreement that we thought that Magomed was probably going to win the rematch, because more often than not, the guy who wins the first fight, especially if he's a younger fighter, they tend to win the rematch in more dominant fashion. I mean, we just saw that this year. I mean, we had Sean O'Malley versus Marab, right? That happened last September. That went to decision, and then Marab was able to submit him in the rematch this year. And then we also had Dricus du Plessis, who had a very close competitive fight against Sean Strickland in that first fight. And then the second fight, we saw how much more dominantly Dricus was in that rematch. So I think, I know that in hindsight, we're like picking Magomed in the rematch might seem stupid, but like if you look at the pattern of rematches and younger fighters and the things that tend to happen in the rematch, most rematches in the UFC tend to go to that first guy, especially if the guy that won the first fight, like it was kind of a close fight, they tend to make more adjustments. I mean, it doesn't always happen, right? It's still a fight. Anything could really happen. And that's kind of why, going into this fight, like I wasn't as confident as some people were. Like, I felt like Alex Pereira was just completely disrespected. And I feel like there's a big part of the MMA community who just kind of support these Dagestani, these Russian fighters, and they kind of become like a cult, like MMA Joey. There's other MMA YouTubers that just kind of want to be like hardcore fans of Magomed Ankalaev just for the sake of being like contrarian or just being like a real hardcore MMA fan. When if we're being honest, like you can like Magomed Ankalaev, but Alex Pereira is just a more exciting fighter, man. More finishes, more knockouts, the aura. There's more build up. He's a character. Like, don't get me wrong, Magomed Ankalaev seems like a cool guy, seems like a chill guy. But I would much rather see Alex Pereira as a champion than I do Magomed Ankalaev, and that's the honest truth. Like, anybody who says otherwise is just trying to be contrarian and just trying to be this hardcore guy. Unless you're a real big fan of Magomed Ankalaev, which, I mean, if you are, I mean, I'm not gonna say anything against that. But for most people, we prefer Alex Pereira being the champion. The UFC prefers it. They probably sell more pay-per-views. And if we're being honest, like Magomed Ankalaev won the title back in March, and I feel like we hadn't heard anything from him like since. Like I feel like he's not even like a champion that's really going out there to promote and build fights. And the guy seems like an interesting guy, but maybe because of the language barrier, I don't know. It's just Alex Pereira being in the title picture. Uh, or being champion is just better for the UFC. It's just better. So I just kind of want to get that out of the way. I'm not a Magomed Ankalaev hater. I wasn't necessarily like, you know, like his biggest fan. I thought the guy's a good fighter. I think he has some entertaining fights. He also has some snooze fest, which kind of has to do with his style. But Alex Pereira just getting through him, right? He approached this fight very differently. I knew this was going to be a different fight as well. I knew this fight was going to be different. And that's why I kind of felt like, man, this is kind of a 50-50. When it came to betting for the main event, what I bet on was that this fight was not going to go the distance. That was kind of my safety parlay for the main event, that okay, I was like, I'm going to put the main event and I feel like it will not go the distance. And the reason why is because I thought, you know what, Alex Pereira is going to go into this fight with a chip on his shoulder, and it's either going to work for him or it's going to work against him. I was like, okay, he's going to take more risk, but in taking more risk, you're also there to be countered. You're also there to get clipped and potentially get knocked out. So I thought there was always that possibility. But the way Alex Pereira came out in that first round, just incredibly aggressive, just pushing Magomed Ankalaev back up against the fence and throwing those leg kicks like Magomed owed him money. I was like, dude, this is a different Alex, man. He looks incredibly locked in, and I'm not gonna like play hindsight 2020 and say that the first fight, Alex just lost because he was dealing with all these injuries. I honestly think that even more than just injuries, I think Alex was just overtrained, man. I mean, he had 3 fights in 2024, and then he quickly came back in early 2025 to fight Magomed Ankalaev, and the guy was probably overtrained, man. I mean, he had kind of had a war against Khalil Roundtree, and obviously the Yuri and Hill fight. Those were pretty easy fights for Alex Pereira, where he didn't take any damage really. So, but still, man, I mean, back to back to back training camps, that takes a toll on your body. And that's kind of what Alex Pereira looked in the first fight. He looked a bit flat in combination with Magomed Ankalaev just imposing his game plan. But even then, right, even in the first fight where, you know, Alex Pereira looked fat, Magomed Ankalaev was basically, I wouldn't say dominating, but clearly winning the fight. It's not like he was like destroying Alex. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he was out grappling and just manhandling him on the ground. And besides that second round where Magomed lands that slick combination on Alex Pereira, that where Alex Pereira almost like got finished at the end of the second round. Besides like that exchange, everything else was kind of competitive. It was competitive. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I think that's the problem with the narrative going into this rematch. So a lot of people were talking about the first fight. Like if the first fight was just like this very easy fight for Magomed, it was clear, it was dominant. I mean, I thought it was a clear win, but to say that it was dominant is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's delusional. It's just people that want to be contrarians, hardcores like MMA Joey, that just want to say rage bait stuff just for the sake of rage baiting. But if we're honest, that first fight, nothing really happened. I thought it was a clear win for Magomed Ankalaev, but even then, on his best day, it was still kind of a lackluster performance. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of a lackluster performance. It wasn't a performance that was going to win any fans over. So I knew that this rematch was going to be a different fight. But just because I thought it was going to be a different fight, I wasn't necessarily thinking that Alex Pereira was going to win, right? Because I said, okay, he's going to take more risk. But at the same time, if he takes more risk, he's there to be countered by Magomed, who has very fast hands, has very good boxing, has very good eyes. So, but we saw that didn't matter, man. Alex Pereira's aura in that cage, I mean, I think it just kind of threw off Magomed Ankalaev, like how aggressive Alex Pereira was at the beginning of the fight. We have never seen him so aggressive. I think Magomed was just like taken aback by that. He was taken aback. I don't think he was expecting that. Maybe he was expecting Alex to be a little bit more aggressive, but even in fights where Alex fights with a chip on his shoulder, like I would say, like the Jamal Hill fight, he was not this aggressive. Like he starts with his calf kicks, kind of moving forward, but he doesn't really push you up against the fence unless he knows he has you hurt. And against Magomed Ankalaev, he just straight and did it. This guy hates Magomed Ankalaev. He clearly has beef, and I know there was a lot of trash talk going into this fight, but Alex Pereira just fought with a chip on his shoulder and landed a right overhand that rocked Magomed Ankalaev. It took a while for him to react to that shot. Went for a panic takedown and then got finished on the ground with ground and pound shots. And people are saying that it was an early stoppage. They're absolutely delusional. It was not an early stoppage. Those elbows were nasty. And it's like, why do you want to see that fighter take more damage? Magomed Ankalaev was not, he was covering up, but he wasn't moving. And the ref is there to protect him. And honestly, he didn't even complain that badly about the stoppage. So I think overall it was a good stoppage. It was weird because the fight lasted so, like, it was just a minute, man. It's like we went from 25 minutes to the rematch lasting a minute. I don't know if that's happened before in a previous rematch where the first fight they go 5 rounds and then the second fight it ends in the first round. I mean, I guess you can say the Volkanovski Islam rematch, but I mean that was on short notice. I mean, it could have still happened to Volkanovski even with a full training camp, right? Because that was more of a technical or I guess game plan adjustment for Islam Makhachev going into that rematch with Alexander Volkanovski. But man, Alex Pereira winning the title, it's amazing, man. It's just hard. Like, I don't understand how you cannot be happy about this. Unless you're Magomed Ankalaev himself and his family and his coaches, I don't understand how you cannot be happy about this outcome because Alex Pereira is just better for the sport. He's just better. He's just better for the sport. The guy's 1-on-1. He's exciting. He's polarizing. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people love him. But I mean, I'm happy about this, man. I'm really, really, really happy about this. And let's talk about what's next, man. Because Alex Pereira, I think that he's at the end of his career, and I feel like he knows that's the case. Like I feel like Alex Pereira is a guy now that he's very fully aware that, hey, man, I only have a couple more fights in the UFC. I've basically cleared the light heavyweight division. Of course, there's always gonna be guys coming up. I mean, I know we have Carlos Ulberg. I mean, Yuri Prohaska just beat Khalil Roundtree. There's always gonna be guys for you to fight. But when you look at the light heavyweight division, the top fighters, right? Because Carlos Ulberg, he's coming off a win over Dominic Reyes, who doesn't have the greatest chin. And then before that, he beat Jan Blachowicz, who hadn't fought in like 2 years and was coming off long layoffs. So it's not like Carlos Ulberg has been beating Yuri Prohaska and, Magomed Ankalaev. Like, I still have a lot of questions when it comes to Carlos Ulberg. I know he's on a win streak, but I'm not like I'm not convinced he's like the number one contender. Like honestly, I think the fight to make would be Yuri Prohaska versus Carlos Ulberg to see who's truly the number one contender. Because then if Yuri wins, he absolutely deserves the title shot because he would beat Hill, Khalil Roundtree, and Carlos Ulberg. And if Carlos Ulberg beats Yuri Prohaska, that's an amazing win because Yuri Prohaska has been running through most of the light heavyweights, not named Alex Pereira. So I feel like that's kind of the right fight to make. And I think Alex Pereira is aware that he doesn't have that much time left, man. I think he understands that he doesn't have that much time left, which is why I think that after the fight, he was calling for John Jones. And I think this was the rightful call out, man, because I think the fight to make next is Alex Pereira versus the winner of Tom Aspinall versus Gane. I think that's the fight to make next. I think Alex Pereira at heavyweight just makes complete sense. You beat someone like Magomed Ankalaev, who hadn't lost in about 10 years. You beat Yuri Prohaska twice. You beat Khalil Roundtree. You beat Jamal Hill. You beat Jan Blachowicz. Like, he's beat most of the light heavyweights. Now, I know people are going to say, well, what about Carlos Ulberg? Like I said, I feel like Carlos Ulberg needs one more. I feel like he needs one more. I don't know if beating Dominic Reyes in 2025 earns you a title shot. I know that Dominic Reyes was on a win streak, but he beat Dustin Jacoby, Anthony Smith. What's that guy that hadn't fought in like so long? Nikita Krylov. He beat Nikita Krylov, and then he beat what's his name? I think that's it. I think he was on a 3-fight win streak. So I still think that Carlos Ulberg needs to do one more. And like I said, Alex Pereira is just different, man. He has insane power, and when he's pressuring, he's locked in. Like, dude, the guy just he looks scary. He looks absolutely scary, and he looked massive in there compared to Magomed Ankalaev. He just looked massive, and I feel like Magomed Ankalaev kind of shit his pants a little bit. Like, he kind of did shit his pants a little bit. Not to say that he wasn't hurt by the punch, but I felt like he was like, oh shit, like this guy's that aggressive. He's that locked in. And I mean, this is an incredible win for Alex Pereira. I feel like this really, kind of reignites his legacy because I felt like after that first loss to Magomed Ankalaev, even though it wasn't like a terrible loss where he got knocked out necessarily, he lost a lot of aura. I mean, that's kind of the fight game. You win. People care about you when you win, and then once you lose, people hop off and you're irrelevant. That's basically the fight game, and that's kind of what happened with Alex Pereira. Nobody really talked about him. There was not a lot of Politon fans, and then now he's winning. Now everybody's back to Shama. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the name of the fight game. I want Alex Pereira to fight Tom Aspinall. I want him to fight. I think that's the fight to make next, man. That's the fight. Alex at heavyweight must happen now, man. I'm tired of the UFC fumbling super fights. This is a fight that has to happen next. You have Alex Pereira, who's basically cleared the light heavyweight division. If Aspinall beats Gane, I mean, there's not a lot of fights for Aspinall either. So this is the fight to make next. I want to see it early next year. And the reason why is because I think that the UFC needs to talk to John Jones and say, look, we know you want to fight at the White House. This is the deal. You have to agree that whoever wins between Aspinall and Alex Pereira early in 2025, you have to fight them at the UFC White House. You can't pick and choose. Because if Aspinall wins against Alex Pereira, you cannot be like, okay, I'm not going to fight Aspinall. Because I know that John Jones prefers a matchup against Alex Pereira more than he does against Aspinall. So I feel like they kind of have to put John Jones in that kind of position if he really wants to headline the UFC White House. Now, if they're not going to do that, let's say John Jones is not part of the equation, then I think they should just make Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall for, the UFC White House. That would be absolutely incredible. I know they're not American. You know, put Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler as the co-main event, and then what you do is that you make Carlos Ulberg versus Yuri Prohaska for an interim belt. I think that would be the right fight to make. I think that would make sense. You know, Yuri Prohaska's on a win streak. He's only lost to Alex Pereira, and Carlos Ulberg is also on a crazy win streak. I think that if Carlos Ulberg truly gets through Yuri Prohaska, then I think that when Alex Pereira comes back, if he even comes back, that would be exciting. And I think it still opens kind of the door for Magomed Ankalaev to like maybe get one more win and jump back to the title picture. I know that we're all kind of joking that, Magomed Ankalaev is never going to get a title shot again. He's going to need to go on a 10-fight win streak to get back to the title. But, I mean, I think that if he gets another good win, if he, knocks out a Jamal Hill or he knocks out, somebody in the light heavyweight division, I think he'll be back in the title picture. So, I'm not too worried about Magomed Ankalaev. Obviously, this is a bad loss. It's a bad loss. It was kind of a very embarrassing loss. The fact that he lost in the first minute, the fact that he was talking so much trash, and I'm happy, man, because those Magomed Ankalaev fans, the guy's fine, the guy's cool, but the fans this week were so annoying. Like they were so confident that it's funny to go back and watch how confident. Like I saw so many breakdowns on MMA YouTuber, saying that Magomed Ankalaev is easily gonna destroy Alex Pereira in the rematch, and I'm like, dude, you can't say that. You can't say that. You just can't. Like I get it. They do that for clicks, and obviously, if that were to happen, you look like an absolute genius. I get it. I get it. I'm in the space. I understand that if that were to be correct, you look like an absolute genius, but you can't talk like that. You cannot talk like that. It's light heavyweight. A punch can change the outcome. I mean, in any weight class, right? A punch, a kick can really change the course of the fight. So, that's why, I was picking Magomed Ankalaev because I knew Alex Pereira was going to be aggressive. But in the same token, I knew, okay, this could also work for Alex. Like, I think that he's going to need to approach the fight differently. And that's exactly what he did, man. So, Alex Pereira had an incredible performance. It's weird because the fight ended so fast that I'm having a hard time saying like it's the best win of his career. I still feel like that first Israel Adesanya win at MSG just, that fight was incredible, man. I still feel like that's probably Alex Pereira's best win. But I guess looking at the fact that Magomed Ankalaev was on a crazy win streak, I think Adesanya was also on a win streak when Alex Pereira beat him the first time at MSG. I know he had lost when he tried to move up to light heavyweight, but I feel like the Adesanya win, the first win, is probably Alex Pereira's best win, and then I would think that this Magomed win is probably second. But who knows? Maybe Yuri Prohaska beat someone like Magomed Ankalaev. So just an incredible win, man. Alex Pereira is truly that guy, and I'm not like a Shama hardcore. I know a lot of people love Alex Pereira, but I just feel like the sport is better with him. The sport is better with him. Now we have potential super fights. I would love to see him fight John Jones. I would love to see him fight Tom Aspinall. And the guy deserves it because he takes every single fight. He was so active in 2024. And, he fought Magomed Ankalaev in the rematch. Not necessarily. He needed to take the rematch because it's not like, what other fight was he going to take? But the fact that he was willing to do this rematch, the fact that he looked so locked in, and I think the first fight was a combination of Magomed Ankalaev's awkward style and bad game planning, on top of the fact that I think he was overtrained. And talking about overtraining, I feel like this is the perfect segment to move into Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen, because I feel like this was a weird fight, man. This was a strange fight, and it was weird because it came right after the Yuri Khalil fight where like the adrenaline was so high, and then you watch Merab and Corey, which is more of a technical battle, and it kind of like killed the vibe a little bit. But this was still a very good fight. Merab did what he does best, guys. Merab did what he does best. He's a little bit boring. I'm not gonna pretend here like Merab is like a super exciting fighter. He goes for nonstop takedowns. In between those takedowns, in between those breaks, he lands punches, and he does the same thing. You know what I'm saying? He's a good fighter, man. He's good. His cardio's a weapon. Corey Sandhagen looked really good early on. In that first round, he was landing good combination, good low kicks, and I was like, man, maybe Corey Sandhagen really does have a chance here, because Merab kind of looked a little bit flat. He looked a little bit flat in this fight. He looked a little bit overtrained, and I think that he should definitely take some time off because he looked a little bit beatable in this fight. And I think part of that had to do maybe with Corey's style, and I think part of that had to do with the fact that he's been so active. So I didn't think this was Marab's best performance, but even Marab's like, I wouldn't say it was like his worst night, but even like an off night, Marab is still like able to beat Corey Sandhagen just based on volume, just based on pressure and going for those takedowns. Because I think Corey was the better striker. I think he was landing the slicker punches. But the problem that I had with this fight, the thing that I mentioned in my prediction for this fight was that the reason I could not pick Corey, the reason that I could not pick Corey, and I understand that Marab was a minus 380 favorite. You know, I'm not gonna pretend here like Marab was some underdog and I'm some genius for picking Marab going into this fight. But the reason why I feel like I just could not see Corey winning is because he's not dangerous. He's not dangerous. Corey Sandhagen is not dangerous, and I feel like when you fight someone like Marab, yes, I mean getting up to your feet is incredibly helpful, but you have to have something on the feet to really threaten a guy like Marab, because if you're landing the same pitter patter shots, he's gonna land those same type of shots and get the takedown on you, and just based on that alone, he's gonna win the rounds. You know, just based on that alone, because if you land 10 punches on Marab, but then he takes you down, you know, lands 10 punches, knees to your leg, and then in the break lands another 5 punches, like he's gonna win the round automatically. So like Marab kind of has a style that just kind of like neutralizes somebody that doesn't have any power, because Corey's not the stronger guy, and he looked good. I thought he fought a good fight. I thought he really fought a good fight. But I think that ultimately, like I was saying, I just felt like Corey was never elite. I think the guy's a very good fighter. I just don't think he's elite. And I think that he doesn't have power. He doesn't have a lot of power. And even when he land clean on Marab, like, yeah, you know, it stunned Marab a little bit, but it wasn't like Marab was necessarily hurt. And it's like, okay, if you're not hurting Marab, then he's gonna take you down. And if he takes you down, even if you get back up to your feet, he's gonna try again. He's gonna try again, and then he's gonna land, upstairs, and he's gonna land his punches, because Marab is also fast on the feet. He has good volume, and I just thought this was kind of a very difficult fight for Corey, even if with a perfect game plan, even if he fought perfectly, and we kind of saw that. And in the second round, he almost got finished. He almost got finished by Merab Dvalishvili, because Merab, he doesn't necessarily have the most power, but he lands a lot in combinations, and if he has you up against the fence, he can hurt you. Anybody can really get hurt if they land the right punch, and we kind of saw that. So, I mean, I feel a little bit for Corey Sandhagen, but this is kind of what I expected. So that's why, like, this fight, I felt like it kind of got lost a little bit under the radar with the main event and then the Yuri Khalil fight, because Merab did what we expected. I think that Merab needs to take some time off. Maybe take some time off and then wait for the winner of Mario Batista versus Umar for, like, early next year, maybe like April, March of next year. And then for Corey, I mean, I think the Sean O'Malley fight is always there. Who hasn't he fought? I mean, he's fought Mario Batista. I'm trying to think who's at the top of bantamweight. Maybe Peter Yan. Because honestly, I'm not interested in a Peter Yan versus Merab rematch. I'm not. I know Peter Yan has been looking good, but I just think his style is just. He has a terrible style for against someone like Merab. I think Merab would just beat Peter Yan the same way. I mean, who knows? Maybe Peter Yan makes adjustments, but I mean, Merab is him, man. Merab is a machine, cardio machine, does what he does best, and that's kind of what I expected, guys. Now let's talk about Yuri Prochazka versus Khalil Roundtree. Now, this this was a 50-50 fight, right? Like, I'm gonna be honest. I picked Yuri, but I bet Khalil Roundtree. I'm gonna be honest. All right, I bet Khalil because I saw the odds and I was like, he's a more technical guy, and I was like, he's gonna be defensive. And in those first two rounds, I felt like a genius. Because I felt like Khalil was clearly winning the fight. I was like, Khalil's fighting just like how he fights. It's not like super exciting, not a lot of volume, but he's just making Yuri look silly. He's making Yuri look silly. It's not Yuri was landing the jab. He was having moments, but for the most part, Khalil was landing the bigger shots. But in the third round, I was shitting bricks because I was like, man, if Khalil starts to gas out, I could just see Yuri just, out-dogging him, because nobody can out-dog Yuri Prochazka. Nobody can out-dog Yuri Prochazka. You have to put him out. Like, only somebody like Alex Pereira, who's powerful, who's technical, can beat someone like Yuri, because if you get into a dogfight with Yuri, you're going to lose. And I feel like his cardio is also very underrated. And he beat Khalil. He knocks him out cold, and it was incredible, man. It was incredible. Would I say that Yuri looked super improved in this fight? No, honestly, I thought Yuri looked a little bit flat in this fight. I felt like he looked a little bit slow. I was like, man, it's not looking good for Yuri early on. And Khalil is just like, dude, Khalil's a weird fighter because he has so much power and he's technically very sound, but I feel like he's not very confident in his abilities. I feel like he's a fighter that you can tell is not very confident in there. And I feel like Yuri kind of took advantage of that in the third round and they kind of got into a dogfight. And Yuri, he just thrives in a dogfight. He just thrives in a dogfight. And it was just a Yuri performance, man. It was just a typical Yuri performance where he's getting, he was getting beaten early on and he outdogs you and knocks you out. The guy's a knockout artist, and Yuri Prohaska is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. And this was incredible, man. It was incredibly exciting. I mean, Yuri's him. How can you not hate Yuri? I thought Khalil did good. Um, I wish he would have played it safe in the third round, but to be fair, like that wouldn't have been that exciting, right? Like if Khalil would have played it safe in the third round and he just won a decision, like I mean, I would have been happy with my bet because I had a single bet with Khalil Roundtree. The safety parlay hit, but I had a single bet on Khalil Roundtree because I was like, man, I feel like he's gonna win. I was like, I feel like he's gonna win. He's gonna be the more technical guy. And I rewatched that Yuri and Hill fight, and Hill had moments, man. Hill had moments, and I thought Khalil was gonna be a little bit more calculated, and he was calculated early on. But once you start to get into a scrap, once you start to get tired, and you're kind of going blow for blow with Yuri, you're not gonna win that fight. You're not gonna win that fight, and we saw that. And I feel like with Yuri, he needs to fight Carlos Ulberg and Khalil. Who can he fight? You can fight Dominic Reyes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a bad fight for Dominic Reyes. Khalil, maybe Jan Blachowicz. I mean, there's still a lot of good fights. The light heavyweight division, guys, is in a good place, man. There's a lot of good fights, and those fights have been delivering this year. And I'm excited for the future of the light heavyweight division, guys. So that's it for this video, guys. I want to know what you guys think. Like I said, UFC 320 was absolutely incredible as an MMA fan. Very exciting. I mean, it was on my birthday. Alex Pereira won on my birthday. He beats Magomed Ankalaev in the first round. Insane, man. This is incredible for the sport, and I cannot wait to see what happens next.